All right. Well, welcome everyone to the All Things Leadership YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Horacio Maldonado. I'm excited today to have a phenomenal guest speaker today. He is the Wilson County Veteran Service Officer, Mr. Ray Herrera. And I've known Ray for a hot minute, and it's always a pleasure talking to him, always learning new things from him. Definitely, Ray, we want to welcome you to the channel. Really appreciate your time. We know you're a busy man, so I'm not going to take too much of your time, but welcome to the channel, brother.
Thank you, Dr. Maldonado. It's a pleasure to once again just speak to you. It's always a pleasure, and here now, I guess more publicly, and allowing on our conversations.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate you doing some great things up in Wilson County, brother. And I definitely partially stalk you on LinkedIn. So you're doing a lot of good things for our veterans down there. So definitely, what you're doing is making an impact. What you're doing is really making a difference. And what you're doing down there is really giving a lot of veterans a lot of opportunities to get involved. And you're definitely the man to go in that area. So really appreciate it. So, today, Ray, I just want to talk a little bit about, the veteran mentality and the leadership mentality and how does that come together. A lot of times people that served in the military for like 20, 30 plus years, they feel, well, my leadership in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Space Force, Coast Guard, I should be easy day. I can just roll up into some organization and just take the lead. And sometimes that's really not what really happens. And that's, maybe it's a misconception. A lot of times, as you transition over from the military to the private sector, as veterans, with part of my research for my doctorate was doing that is we have the we think, well, I did this much, I should be going to an organization and make all those changes, and that's really not supposed to be happening. So I'm just gonna go over a couple of questions for you, and definitely would love to hear your perspective on it. And the first question is, and I wrote them down because I want to make sure that I say them right to you. How do you see the leadership qualities of veterans developing during the military service, influencing the roles and the effectiveness in the civilian leadership positions? Um, does it really matter how much time I spent in the military as a leader to the private sector?
That's a very good question, especially the last ending part of it. So I guess a little bit more in my background, I can only attest to my experience. I think I still consider myself one of the junior service members. Although still in leadership positions, I still considered, because of my time in service was only 5 years. Um, I guess to get quick to your question, I do think that being in the service has its advantages, but I don't think that your time in service is like a definite bar
Yeah.
to where you're going to perform outside of the service. You know, I think that everybody has a different styles of leadership, and I do see, depending on the type of style that you have in the service, I've seen it on both ends. I've seen it be a good contributor right outside the door coming out of the service, and I've seen somewhere, you know, different leadership styles just takes some time to kind of adjust into now the civilian world. So I've seen it both ways, but I do think being in the service and time in service in leadership position could have its advantages if you play it out correctly.
hmm So just to add to that, and I appreciate your response, Ray, I really like it. Do you believe, or do you think that it matters the branch of service from your perspective?
I don't know. In short, no, I don't think it's the branch. I've seen great leadership styles in all different branches. Um, some I think can maybe relate to more of a civilian style of predominantly, I guess you can say,
Hmm
not really. Uh, but no, because I've seen some combat veterans that are leaders in the field and come out and be very successful. I've seen somebody where they were administration all their career and come out and be very successful. So
Yeah.
I really a matter of what branch or even what job, to be honest. I think it's a lot of it has to do with one, the type of leadership you prefer, the style, right? And then I think the willingness to change and modify that as you get out. I think that's the key. It's I don't think any style is just a plug and play.
Yeah.
some way it has to be modified because you just can't treat people the same way as we do in the service.
That's true. That Yeah, you're extremely correct, man. That is extremely correct. I like how you mentioned the adjusting and I have to adjust. It's not just a very, plug and play, like you said, it's more of a I have to adjust to the certain things. Part of my research when I was doing my doctorate on transitional leadership styles into the private sector was just exactly that. Because if I was for example, a 32-year service member, I expected this. So the expectation of what I believe is military leadership, it will not equivocate to the same thing as civilian leadership, just because they have different foundations. I think the principles are the same, maybe the same approach, but you have to modify. And I appreciate you saying that we have to be able to modify. I had to modify a lot of my ways, and from being in the military for such a long time. But I appreciate your response, Ray. I like that. Um, Now shifting to the challenging perspective, what are some of the unique leadership challenges that veterans face when they transition to community or organizational leaderships after the military service? What are some of the interesting from your perspective and from your experience on some of the challenges that these leaders face?
I think depending on the field you go into, right, and the department and its orientation to veterans, if there is any at all, right, I
Hmm.
think that's an important factor because I think many veterans, whether you're a 4 year or a 30-year veteran, you know, we tend to kind of expect some type of acknowledgement,
Hmm.
I mean, service and that having some more of a leverage. So we tend to have that expectation and not getting it up front or through the application process or even within trying to move up the ladder. If that's not acknowledged, I think I do see veterans come into that being a challenge for them.
Hmm.
Overcoming that, ultimately staying, even though that it's not something that's acknowledged up front. Um, but on the other, and another challenge, I guess I would state would be just the simple adjustment again, kind of like military style to civilian style. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's for every veteran. I always say we're constantly adjusting to coming out of the service. I don't think anybody feels 100%. There's some quirk about you as something still military related. So I think a lot of veterans long for that same environment and more expectation that we have. What in the military, no matter what branch, the expectations are high. You're held to a certain standard, and if you don't fulfill those standards, that affects promotion, that affects many aspects of your military career. So when we come out, our bars are very high, and not to say that I think we should lower those bars, but be cognizant of the bar and the expectation, and instead of looking at it as a perspective of it being not a good standard, looking
Yeah.
at how, if I include myself into this organization, how can I provide some type of strength to, I guess, get closer to that bar where you would maybe be more comfortable at working at.
Yeah.
So what we can contribute to I guess make it more not military oriented, but more associated, as well as with the standards that we work with.
Hmm. Oh, definitely. You're correct. And I want to add a little bit to what you're talking about, and I wrote it down here because the acknowledgement, do you believe that if the veteran does not feel that he or she's being acknowledged, because if I've served, is at 12 or 30, do you think the acknowledgement piece kind of sort of hurts the veterans maybe overall? I don't want to use the word ego, maybe just the word perspective. Because and just as you mentioned right now, we're set to a higher standard, right? We're set to a certain standard, and sometimes we want to bring that standard from the military into the private sector, and sometimes it's like it can be up here or it can be down here, man. So, do you think that if I'm not being acknowledged or a veteran's not being acknowledged for their leadership experience, do you think that hinders them in maybe their way forward?
I do think there is a factor of it affecting them, just for the simple fact that, you know, again, if you're a 4-year veteran or a 30-year veteran, you sign your life away for some time.
Yeah.
I ultimately feel that's like a great thing that a person of the United States can do. Some even gave their ultimate sacrifice. So I think once veterans get past that part and realize, because I've had many veterans, officers, high ranking NCOs to lower enlisted, and it doesn't really change the fact that, some way outside the service still want to be uh, um, referred to as,
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dan or, Major so and so, because they still live with that title even after the service. And I think
Mm.
it's important to acknowledge, as a veteran, our sacrifice and what we did. But at the same time, that is a huge challenge. I feel like as we're transitioning out, we're still trying to hold on to some things that I feel that may be a little bit more, not as challenging if we were to kind of just release some things like that. And being referred to as your title in the service, I those.
Yeah, no, I'm with that, and that happens a lot. If they're not referred to as captain or with their former rank, they're like, what's going on here? Did we just forget that they existed? And I've had many experiences in my previous job career. It was always like that, so it was very difficult if you did not acknowledge that person as that. Maybe, and I like how you said it. Maybe they don't want to let it go, but that itself is a major challenge. That itself hinders him or her from moving forwards, which is crazy in itself, but it happens more than less, from that perspective. I appreciate the response rate. And from your experience, how can local veteran service programs better support veterans in growing their leadership skills to serve the communities beyond just the benefit assistance?
I like that question, and it's a very good question. Thank you for asking that. So, if I can relate to my personal experience, it is truly because of mentorship. You know what I mean? Uh, if we see other veterans, maybe struggling or having challenges, being able to mentor them through the transitioning process, as we were once there, or maybe they have been, um, and just helping them understand where we could be better. Because at many times, just like in the service, we think we have all our ducks in a row, and somebody has a different perspective, and they can assist you.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's important not just get mentorship, but get mentorship from somebody that's invested in you. You know, in the sense that they truly care, they have an understanding, and they want to see you succeed. So I don't think it's just finding a mentorship or someone that just is trying to mentor somebody, but someone that has an invested interest in you, to really even care to mentor you past all challenges.
Mm.
I think that's the key. I myself, when I first kind of started working with veterans, I found some pretty good mentors that had been working with veterans for quite some time, and I just kind of fell. I say, around them, and
Mm.
the important thing is, although they were a good mentor to me, that wouldn't have happened if I didn't seek the mentorship.
Yeah.
Allow somebody to mentor me, and I think everybody has their own perspectives on what that looks like. And then I think just finding on what type of mentor that you would want, and find one, and then just continuously engage with them. And over time, whether you formally say I'm going to be your mentor or not, like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes I love the word mentorship, and I like how you said it. The perspective of finding a mentor, it has to be driven more than just, yeah, you're my mentor and that's pretty much it. Is, find that investment. How can we both grow? Because as a mentor, we're both growing, right? So if I'm around this person, been doing it for 30 plus years, yeah, I'm gonna learn something. Something stuck with me right now when you said it. I had a previous conversation with somebody recently. Sometimes people need to allow themselves to be coachable, to be approachable. You have to be willing to say, look, you know what? I know this, and I'll use myself as a great reference. I've been doing this job for 20 plus years, man, right? And I still seek other people that have been in the game longer than I have. Be like, hey, where am I at? Where can I do better? Where can I improve? I'm okay to say, you know what? I'm like here, but I want to be here. What can I do? Allow yourself that opportunity to say, invest in yourself, like you said, and I think a lot of times from a lot of my research I've done, people feel that I already did this for 20 plus years, 12 years in the military. I don't think I need it now, right? So they see a different perspective when it comes down to mentorship. I have three people that are part of my mentorship group, and before they came on board, I made them do a 200-word essay on what do they actually want from me, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm just gonna be the co-pilot and you're gonna be the pilot. I'm just gonna be the co-pilot, man. You're gonna be leading this journey. I'm just gonna be there, be like, hey, make sure you turn the blinker. Hey, you know what? Make sure you do this. Hey, how about this? Let's try this instead of just being silent and let him go and make all those mistakes. That's what really it is. It's all about. It's about joining somebody, okay, that really wants to move forward, wants to grow, wants to better themselves, and you're just coaching them because I always tell people, get what's up here from me, man. All right. I have a lot to give, and not everybody's asking for it. So when they do that, it gives them, especially the people that are mentoring, it gives them like, okay, this is why I want to be mentored. Not because of who you are, your title, your business. No, because I like how you talk. We talk personal, we talk business, we talk about profession, career, direction. What am I doing? And I tell you, I will do everything in my power to be brutally honest with you. But you have to allow yourself to grow, be
Right.
coachable, be trainable. I don't know all the answers. I sort of invest in my own professional development myself. So I like to have mentorship because not everybody sees it that way, but I really appreciate it. So I'm going to give you a bonus question that I have, Ray. Sorry, I give it to everybody. I know last minute do the old shotgun thing. Um, if you can give one piece of advice to veterans today in what you do, what would it be? No pressure.
Think it will kind of go back to almost the last question is really seek guidance, mentorship from those who are doing something that maybe you want to do, or maybe something that you want to learn, a trade or anything like that. Seek guidance, and not just seek guidance, but genuinely. I think is the important thing to do it. Do it genuinely. I've seen that just by being genuine and helping those people around you or associated with you, um, it's gonna come back in some type of assistance
Mhm.
for your growth, personal, financially, or whatever the case may be. But and I think through that genuine interactions, you know, you will find answers to things that you probably didn't even think you could get answered from somebody.
Yeah,
Uh, I was talking to this one person about one subject, and it was specifically about this, and they brought something up. Well, I never thought about, and it helped me out in this part of my life.
yeah,
But you don't know that until you engage. Again, finding that mentorship that is invested, genuine, and you don't know that until you kind of collaborate, interact multiple times. I don't think I've met one person where I was just so blown away by them, where I was like, yep, that's who I want to be around, and talk to more often. It was
yeah.
a group of interactions where it was more reassuring me, like, yeah, this is a good person, this is the type of person I want to speak to more, have around more, because as they say, the more you speak to certain types of people, you're going to rub off, as speak to those that are going to benefit you and help you as a person in all aspects of life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate it, man. I always told the last one, like, let me just throw something at Ray when we're going. I have a coin for you, brother, but when I go to San Antonio, I'll give it to you. I really appreciate your time. your knowledge, because your wealth of knowledge, man. The last time we sat down and had lunch together, we talked about everything but everything, and definitely want to continue that. You're a wealth of knowledge in what you do, man, and the veterans up in Wilson County, they're definitely blessed to have you, brother, man. I really appreciate it for your time, and just thanks a lot, brother, man. And if there's anything that you need from us, just let us know. If you want to follow this guy on LinkedIn, let him know. But I really appreciate your time, Ray.
Thank you, Dr. Maldonado, and you take care. And again, thank you for what you continue to do and the leadership that you provide, the classes. Again, when we're talking about connecting, that's just for me, it's like the entry door. Like the door is there. And sometimes people just got to take those and see where they land.
No, I got you. I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it. Well, folks, thank you much for joining us today. As we had our guest today, Mr. Ray Herrera, the Wilson County Veteran Service Officer, doing some great things up there. We appreciate your time. Hit that subscribe button when you have a chance, and everybody have a good one.
Take care.